Welcome to the O Brother Podcast. I'm your host, Dan Smith. Alongside me, as always, my brother from the same mother, Mike Smith.
How's it going, Dan?
I gave you the big point today. I give you the flash
I
point.
love it. I
I'm
love
giving
it.
you that. So, all right. So we're back to do a review of the movie documentary, actually, still a Michael J. Fox movie.
And we did a first look on this.
We did a first look on this. Yeah. That is one that I cannot wait to see.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
God, that looks good. It's not exactly what I expected. I love what it appears to be, the way that it's really a parallel between his struggle with it, but also what was going on in his professional life too, and his personal life with Tracy Pollan, who they've been together for so many years.
Since Family Ties.
Yeah, she stood by him all this time, and he's just, what a spirit the guy has. It's just amazing.
He reminds me of Jason Bateman so much. The two of them seem like they could be brothers.
And we were anticipating it then. We were eagerly awaiting it when we reviewed the trailer. It just dropped on May 12th on Apple TV. This is fairly unusual for us, at least recently, to jump on Mike and do a review of something so quickly.
Yeah. We both watched it as soon as it was available.
As soon as it was available, yeah. And this is just, we're 2 days from the release, since it's been released. It's May 14th, Mother's Day. Happy belated Mother's Day to all the moms, including our own. So it's May 14th, 2023, when we're recording this episode. But, I got to tell you, I'm jumping right in. One of the greatest documentaries I've ever seen.
I won't go that far.
It's top,
really good.
It's top.
Really good.
It's well within the top 5. If you ramble off some documentaries, of course, For You and I, For All Mankind would be up in that top 5.
And then we'd go into the Michael Moore world a little bit.
Maybe the Michael Moore world, but this was so well directed and so well edited, and we'll get to that I was just completely blown away. The way that they put this together. It's phenomenal. I can't imagine the amount of time that went in to making it, given all of the techniques and kind of tricks that they use to tell the story. So do you want to set it up in any way? I mean, it's obvious what it's about, but do you want to set it up at all?
Sure. When we did the first look, we really had no idea what it was going to be. So still is kind of his word, because he can't stay still. When you have Parkinson's, your body moves like...
It's going to be a tough one this episode, isn't it?
Yeah, with the hand gestures. I know, Parkinson's. But he doesn't hide anything. He doesn't try to cover over this. He's like, this is me. I can't stay still. Because somebody said, well, what if you could? And he said, well, I can't. So don't even ask that question.
Yeah, I did so basically it's him on camera narrating this whole thing.
Right. And at times there's a moderator that will jump in and ask him questions.
Well, that's the director.
Correct.
Davis Guggenheim.
And you had said he worked on a couple of big films, but I haven't seen any of his work.
No, I think you might be thinking of another one. He's primarily worked on shorts. He's got other documentaries that are a lot of political documentaries from what I could see, like I think one most recently on Biden and one on Obama. And so that's what I saw from looking at his resume. Interesting note that I had read about Davis Guggenheim is, do you know who he's married to? Of course you know.
I don't.
He's married to Elizabeth Shue.
Oh,
who of
you
course,
son of a gun! You stole my wife.
Famously played Jennifer, right? In episodes
Jennifer.
2 and 3.
Correct.
Back to the Future 2 and 3.
The funny thing is, at the end of Back to the Future 1, he lifts open the garage, and what does she say? Or she comes walking on screen,
because they had to reshoot that for the beginning of the second one.
Correct. So they reshot it with Elizabeth Shue, and when she walked on, I went to it was a back-to-back showing of 1 and 2, and on the day 3 came out on VHS, so I watched all 3 back to back to back.
Yeah. So
And when she walked on screen and she said, and he said, "Jennifer," and the whole crowd, "No, it isn't Jennifer." It
yeah, well,
was
it was a it turned out to be a much better Jennifer in my opinion because I love Elizabeth Shue.
Yeah, I do
Uh,
too. Who doesn't?
especially I've been watching her most recently in the Cobra Kai series on Netflix. She's
Yeah,
incredible. Um,
which that was from Karate Kid.
yeah, let's
Wow.
pause just a second though.
Yeah.
2 hours later.
Okay, so back to the documentary. So yeah, Guggenheim is married to Elizabeth Shue. They've been married since like 1994.
Have what,
Um,
3 or 4 kids, I think.
I'm talking
I
about
think 3.
Guggenheim now, not
Oh,
Michael J.
okay.
Fox. Yeah, Michael J. Fox, of course, is
I'm
married to
totally focused on
Tracy Pollan, who's featured in the documentary. She comes in about halfway through in the
yeah.
documentary, and they met, of course, I believe, right on the set of Family Ties.
Yeah, she played like,
They
someone
were
he asked out for a date.
they were both sort of long shots to be cast in that series too.
Mhm.
In the documentary, she's interviewed back then about, wasn't you were sort of a interesting casting choice for that role.
Mhm.
I forget what was her character's name. Do you remember in Family Ties? I can't remember.
I don't
Was it
remember.
Jennifer? Actually, I don't
No,
know.
that was, Justine Bateman was Jennifer. I always know that
Was
from
it? No, it was Mallory.
Oh,
Jennifer.
yeah,
No, it was Mallory.
Mallory. It's
Yeah.
always David Spades.
I was gonna say, again, that was a horrible Spade doing Michael J. Fox.
Spade with a hoarse voice
So
doing
what I loved about this, they used they recreate they had these recreations of
Yeah.
clips from his movies and TV shows to use as these like transitional devices
Mhm.
to move the story forward. And I want to mention Danny Irizarry is
Mhm.
the actor who plays Michael J. Fox in these recreated scenes. There's a
Mhm.
lot of like kind of side profile shots from
I asked
behind.
you about that on the first look.
Correct. You
I
couldn't tell.
wondered. Yeah,
You
I
couldn't
couldn't
tell.
tell.
And there's one early on where, when we've talked about this on the show before, but Fox is, doing Family Ties, and then
Mhm.
he's doing that during the day,
Mhm.
and then at night he'd go shoot Back to the Future because, of
Right.
course, he famously replaced Eric Stoltz
Right.
after they had been shooting with Stoltz for like 3 months.
Yeah, 3/4 of the movie had been done.
Yeah. So, but there was one early
And
on
we
where they,
like him as an actor, Eric Stoltz. He's
yeah,
a good
it's
actor.
nothing to say about his abilities as an actor. He just
Right.
wasn't the right fit.
Right.
It was something to do with the comedy, I think, the humor side of it
Mhm.
that he was bringing. And anyways, so there's one where, they're showing him go from set to set, right? From Family
Right.
Ties to the Back to the Future set. And it's that famous scene where he and Doc Brown are in the mall, the Twin Valley, Twin
Going
Pines,
back and
whatever
forth.
parking lot.
Uh-huh. Oh, the park.
And
Okay.
and he's gonna film, right? And, Marty's got the camcorder and all of that.
Yes.
But just the shooting, the reshooting of that
Yeah.
from when he leaves Family Ties set using Danny, Irizarry,
Right.
right, as Michael, to then end up on the set. Someone from off camera hands him the camcorder, and he
Right, and
puts
he
that
ducks
vest on.
under
It's just
the
it's
boom. It was
yeah,
great.
you gotta see it. It's
Yeah.
too difficult to describe, but they do that throughout the entire documentary.
Mhm.
And it's just brilliant from, like, the clothing, the wardrobe that they were able to recreate, and it's
I
just it's
imagine he
fascinating.
he watched a lot of film, a lot of outtakes,
Oh,
um,
yeah.
and trying to get the right moment, like,
Oh,
"Okay,
hours and
this moment
yeah.
matches a moment in
Yes.
real life."
Even with the dialogue, right? There's things that clips of Michael J. Fox in a movie saying something that is relevant to the story of his life in the documentary.
Right, right.
And in fact, when he finds out that what's his name, Gary David Goldberg, who was the producer of Family Ties, who didn't want Michael J. Fox to be
Neither did
Alex T.
Brandon Tartikoff,
Yeah, tartar sauce.
who who was
Yeah,
the president of NBC at the
NBC.
time.
Correct. There's a scene where, again, using clips from his actual movies, it portrays the story of him learning from Gary David Goldberg
Mhm.
that Spielberg sends a message he wants him to be in Back to the Future, so
Mhm.
it's just really brilliantly done.
Yeah.
So that was impressive. There's no real mention of very little mention of Fox's mom in this documentary. Did that stick out
Yeah,
to you at all?
it did because I mentioned it. Oh, mother has seen this. That's how much I liked it as I
Can you
was
just say
like,
mom has seen this?
yeah, mom has seen this
Yeah.
because I grabbed her. I said, "Mom, watch this tonight." She watches like the same shows over and over again.
Jeez,
And
I wonder where she gets that from.
I'm
The
not my
Simpsons.
Simpson addiction is kind of waning.
Okay, so did she like it?
She loved it. She was in tears.
Yeah.
And I didn't get that feeling though.
How
I
about the
didn't feel
mother?
sorry for him. But yeah, I
Well, I don't
said,
think well, hold on. I don't think the emotion necessarily equates to pity or feeling sorry. There's just a lot of emotional um, parts of the film of his life story up to now,
right,
like above and beyond the Parkinson's.
right.
Right? It's just the telling of his getting into the business. In fact, one of the most poignant things is I mentioned his mother and kind of the lack of her presence in the documentary,
Mhm.
but very much so they're telling the story of his relationship with his father. There's some poignant
Correct.
moments there. Early on, it's the fact that much to Michael's surprise, his father is very supportive, in fact,
He was
drives
into
him
it.
to LA
Drove him there and got
to
him
start
into an
auditioning when
apartment.
he's in his teens.
Yeah, yeah.
And,
In fact, he
so
was, like,
that was very
acting
touching.
as his, like, PR guy.
Well, in his own mind, he
Yeah,
was,
well, yeah.
very much
But
like our father would have done, but so
yeah.
that was very touching,
Do you
that
need his father in the scene? I can, jump
yeah.
right in.
What do you need,
I
a
kind
podcast host? I could
Yeah,
do
I
that.
kinda look just like him.
Yeah. So anyways, I thought that was interesting. I don't know if there was anything behind that or if it was just a more poignant aspect of his story, the relationship with his father,
Yeah,
you
I
know,
there has to be because we both that went off in my head about the
about the
mother.
mom. Yeah,
So,
yeah.
it had to
She's
be
in it,
an
but
issue.
briefly. Yeah,
Yeah,
briefly. You mentioned, Brandon,
Tartikoff.
Tartikoff, who was the president of NBC.
Mhm.
There's a clip of him, they make it seem as though it's a clip of him saying to this kid, I mean, yeah, he's good, but he's never gonna end up on a lunchbox, which was big
Right.
back then, right? If you made a cut to, you realize they just edited a longer interview with him where he grabs a lunchbox
Mhm.
that, of course, has Michael J. Fox's image on it, signed from Michael J. Fox,
Mhm.
love and kisses. The interesting thing is I paused at that scene because
Yeah.
I wanted to see what the detailed message was on the lunchbox,
Yeah.
and I wrote it down. It
Wow.
said, yeah, I wrote it down. It says, "They wanted me to put a crow in here, but," so eating crow, right? He had the
Yeah.
last laugh. So,
And then, of
um,
course, there's the scene at the Emmys, the real scene at the Emmys when he won the Emmy, and he went up and he
yeah,
said, "I feel 4 foot tall."
I feel 4 feet tall.
yeah,
That was funny.
yeah. I mean, he was, this whole telling of how as a kid he couldn't sit still, you know,
Right.
pardon the pun, but
And he
and
self-deprecates in a way that
yeah, quite a bit.
makes you not feel sorry for him because he's had a great life, and it's not over, obviously. He's done a lot for Parkinson's. I'm wondering, pre-Michael J. Fox, did I even know I think we would have given what we studied in college,
Of
but I
course, you
don't
knew.
remember.
Well, what you studied, not what I studied, but
Yeah.
with psychology. But yeah, because Muhammad Ali. I mean,
Correct,
he
correct,
was
yes.
diagnosed in
Yeah.
1984. So, anyways, yeah, I think Ali was the first, like, shocker,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Not so much a shocker, I suppose, because at that time, that very much quickly became brain injury conversation, right? It was
Mhm.
very much focused on, well, clearly he's got this motor inhibiting disease because he's, was a boxer for all his life. But
Right.
some other notable names, Alan Alda,
Was he in
Bush.
it?
No, it has
Or he has
Parkinson's.
it, okay. I didn't know that. I didn't. I
Was
thought
he
you.
in it? Did
I
he play his father?
I thought
Oh,
you
is that
were.
scene when Michael J. Fox starred in that episode of
I thought
MASH?
you were going to run down the cast.
No, no, no. There's really not much cast to speak of, but Bush Senior is another notable name of someone who
Hmm.
was diagnosed with Parkinson's. Um, Now, Billy Connolly, very famous
Comedian.
English comedian, Billy Graham, Reverend Billy Graham, Brian Grant. Do you remember Brian from the NBA, basketball player?
Brian Grant.
He's in the
He was on the Bulls, wasn't he?
he's not in this, but he's in some other documentaries I've seen with Fox on Parkinson's, and then of course most recently in the celebrity world, 2018, speaking of mom, Neil
Hmm.
Diamond,
Right,
right? Like
right.
her, it's, I mean, he's stopped touring as a result of it.
Yeah.
So, and it's, but going back to sort of his early life and, his restlessness and the need to kind of fulfill that and leading to this kind of ambition where what he starts getting into theater in school, right? Because he finds it as a way to maybe, like you said, self-deprecate, be the comedian. It's a good way
Hmm.
to protect yourself from getting beaten up by bullies when you're like way smaller than people expect you to
Right,
be at your age, right?
right.
Um,
Which that
uh,
was. It was funny to see him so young
yeah.
and how he looked even younger. I mean, when he was 16, he could easily pass for 12. I mean,
Oh, easily, easily.
that's how different he
Which is
looks.
something he was told, right? When he lands his gig in Canada,
Mhm.
and then they're like, you should go to Los Angeles because they'll be falling all over themselves to cast somebody that looks like you that can play a younger person in films.
Right.
That so
And in 85, what pops into my head is Rain Man, where they focused on, um, Dustin Hoffman's character. But
what has
what
that
do you
got to do
think?
with what does that got to do with?
I'm just saying,
You
like,
lost me there.
well, like it's like, what's the next movie we're gonna make about a debilitating disease kind of thing? It's
Oh,
like I got to
oh, oh,
play Stephen Hawking because that'll win me an Oscar.
right.
And it was Richie Ricky Gervais. He had a series called Extras on
Mhm.
HBO. I don't know if it's still up. If it is, hilarious stuff.
I think it is, yeah.
And it's what extras go through, trying to get the part. And Kate Blanchett is in one of the episodes playing herself. And she's like, I got to, they got to give me somebody who's mental.
What has this got to do with, Michael J. Fox?
Well, I was saying they were looking for like, what's the next big mental illness that's going to make a blockbuster movie?
I still
All right,
not
just cut
following you.
that whole shit. I
Did
I
you
can't
lose
explain it
yourself?
any no,
Did you I
no,
don't
I
know.
can't explain it any better.
He wasn't in a thing about a disease or anything.
Well, he did. He had to, Parkinson's is a
Right, but he
debilitating
never
disease.
portrayed it in a movie.
No.
That's what you're talking about. You totally lost me.
Well,
What's in that water bottle tonight?
because you said somebody was trying to talk him into going into theater and to going to California because
Yeah, they said because with his youthful look at his
Mhm.
age, he could go and get cast in like tons of movies. Nothing to
Right.
do with it, really just to do with his youthful look is really
Yeah.
what they were telling him.
And it
Um,
was, I don't remember back then him looking so young. Like, I think he's what, 2 years older than me?
um, yeah, I think so. I
But
think
if you
so.
looked at us
1 or 2
back
years, yeah,
then,
yeah.
I would have looked like I was his father. I mean, he was like
I don't know. I
when he
could
was
think of some
younger, he
I
was
could think of some pictures of you in your Pirates uniform, for the Pittsburgh Pirates uniform, where you look pretty youthful, you know.
Pittsburgh Pirates.
But he,
It took me a while. My brain had to catch up with that comment.
yeah, Little League, remember?
Yeah.
But, so it's a telling of, like, several stories in one, really.
Mhm.
It's his ambition to get into that, uh, art, become an actor.
Mhm.
Obviously being diagnosed in 91, I think, is when he gets the diagnosis. And then, the impact on his relationship with with his wife, Tracy,
Mhm.
his alcoholism, which honestly,
Right.
I don't know that I ever heard him talk about that before. That was
No,
kind of
I
new
didn't.
to me. Not a
Yeah.
shock, just I mean, yeah, sure, okay. You wanna
Right.
self-medicate, I get it.
Right.
But, in fact, I did this weird thing. I just have to I have to say it because it was weird and it came very quickly to me, but, like, the arc of the film, I found the arc of the documentary in all of these words that happen to begin with A, which is strange, and we can cut this out if it's ridiculous, but go so this is the arc, right?
Mhm.
Ambition,
Mhm.
acting, okay, attention or accolades, right? Then perhaps asshole. He talks about being a dick there for a while, right?
Right.
Alcohol,
Mhm.
auto animation, which was when he discovers his pinky,
Right.
right? Ironically, 1990 in Florida, he's in a hotel room and
Right.
he's going to swat a moth out of his way and he sees the pinky going. He knows something's wrong, right?
Yeah. Wasn't it
Ad-
wasn't it the number
It was
2
his
finger?
pinky.
Was
It was
it?
his pinky. Yeah.
Okay.
Addiction, alcoholism, acceptance of PD, right?
Mhm.
He comes to accept, and then advocacy,
Right.
so, which of course, I mean, I was a huge fan of his way back, like in the Family Ties days. You were talking
Right.
about like when he looked really young, because he did look, seeing some of those old clips is,
Yeah.
and he was what then? He was, how old was he? That was 1982.
Yeah.
So he would have been what? He would have been, I can't get his birthday right off the top of my,
I
like,
can see if I can
close
pull
to
it.
you. What
Oh.
is that? 82. He's how old is he?
Um,
He'd be about
if
20?
he was born in '82, you mean?
No, 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 no. Family Ties airs in like 82.
Oh,
So he's what, about 20 at that
yeah.
point?
He's gotta
Yeah.
be well, or younger. No, I would say
Yeah.
20 because I
R-
think he's older than me.
Right in that
So,
range.
yeah,
Yeah.
right in there.
Yeah. So what, you haven't said much. What stood out to you as you're watching this? Because I got the sense that when you reached out to me later that night or the next morning, you're like, are we going to do, we're going to get on and do a review still, do that now.
Right.
I could kind
Yeah.
of sense the energy and I thought, I think he liked it. I think he really liked it.
Right. We try not to give each other clues, and if I ever even start to say the name of the movie, save it for the podcast.
Save it for the air.
Save it for there.
Yeah.
Um, I liked it a lot. I was surprised I didn't have these pity feelings or, "Oh, poor him."
Well, he
You
doesn't
know?
let you. He doesn't allow
Right,
you to, and he
right.
says that. He says
Mhm,
there's a great scene in the beginning. I can't remember. I think it may be in the trailer when he's walking out of a hotel or his building where he lives in New York or something,
mhm.
him and his therapist, his physical therapist, and they're walking down the street. He
He was
encounters this
falling
woman just
down.
walking by, "Hello, Mr. Fox," and he falls,
Mhm.
and she turns around like, "Oh, geez," and she walks over and he's like, "I'm all right. I'm all right." And as he's standing up, she says, "It's very nice to meet you," and starts to walk away. And he goes, "Yeah, you really knocked me off my feet." I mean,
Yeah,
it's just, he can't help but be that way. And I think it's like in the tagline, what happens when an incurable optimist, faces an incurable disease.
right,
It's such a great
right,
line, but he really is what he calls himself a cockroach at one point.
right.
I'm a cockroach. You can't kill me.
I think in the first look, he said, "I'm not gonna live to 80." He was, like, definitive when he said that,
Oh, I
and
don't remember hearing that.
that
I
wasn't in
didn't
the documentary.
I didn't
It
hear
was
that. Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
so, again, it's just a lot of
they t
times trailers
right.
don't
Stuff
don't
gets
have everything.
dropped.
Yeah.
Yeah. They talk about it being the old person's disease, right? You kind of
Mhm,
think of you tend to associate it with people that are much older.
mhm.
And if in the little I've read and researched, it's like right around when you get in your early 50s is when most
Mhm.
people are diagnosed or start to show signs, I guess. And there's about 1 million people in the US that have Parkinson's.
Yeah.
And that's about, I forget what it was. What is it? 6 million worldwide. 6
Was
million
it six
worldwide,
million? And then
which, to me, you know, it just, it goes to show, okay, so as Michael J. Fox in the documentary talks about, people would come up to him and say, "I'm glad you got Parkinson's." Right? Meaning,
it's weird.
yeah, very strange, but meaning that it brought a certain spotlight to the disease, and it made other people feel, like, okay, there's other people out there going through the same thing as me, and
Mhm.
and so
And the Michael J. Fox Foundation has raised
right.
more money than anyone.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
incredible work that he's done with that, and they show scenes of him, like, testifying in front of Congress, and,
yes.
um but, it just goes to show you, it takes, okay, now it's Michael J. Fox, right? Like, America's sweetheart,
Right.
to get
Right.
this, for really there to be this national conversation about it.
Mhm.
That's kind of a sad, you know,
Right,
uh,
all these people
underlining story.
who suffered from it for years and
Right,
couldn't get
it's
any
and still
attention.
do, and still do.
Right. And so now, that's a huge resource. Do you have the website? I meant
Which
to write it down, I forgot, for the
the Michael
Michael
J.
J.
Fox?
Fox.
I think
Yeah,
it's michaeljfox.org.
is that what it is?
Yeah, I think
I mean,
so,
if you
yeah.
just
Just
do a
Google it.
Google search,
Yeah,
yeah,
and,
it'll
I
come
can
up.
remember, he befriended Cam Neely years and years ago, who, of course,
Right,
is the president of the Boston Bruins right now. We won't speak of them any more than just that
that's
comment,
it.
but
Full
yeah,
stop.
"You're dead to me." And I believe he used to spend some time up in
Boston.
nearby,
Yeah.
very in the suburbs nearby where we
Mhm,
are, because um, Neely had a home there, maybe still does, I guess. But
mhm,
big fan of hockey. That's another thing. There's a couple of brief clips as a kid where they're sort of portraying him playing, street hockey or
mhm.
whatever. But
Right.
so yeah, I thought about that too. It's like, geez, it's great, but in the other hand, like you said, it's like these, all these other people, hundreds of thousands that are living with this.
Mhm,
Um, and it's these brain cells that uh create dopamine in the brain that,
mhm.
as they say, stop working or they die off altogether, which are related to, movement.
It's kinda like, Live Aid and Farm Aid and, where famous people grab a hold of something, and they use their fame, you know, hopefully to help
Yeah,
and
better
raise money
better
for research.
better to do it than not do it.
Right, right.
This
I
has
mean
been this has been it's only been a couple of days as of this recording, but I looked it up on IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes. IMDb is listing it as 8.3 right now out of 10.
mhm,
77 is the Metascore.
hmm,
Rotten Tomatoes, 99% from the critics, 96 from the audience. So
wow.
it's just not a surprise at all. You know,
No, no.
it was funny to see the clip early on, when he's starting to talk about the period in his life just before, as he's landing Back to the Future, and they
Mhm.
show that old clip of Siskel and Ebert, which, of course, big
Right,
inspiration behind the O Brother podcast. And of
which is
course, it was
true.
two thumbs way up from
Right,
Siskel and
and
Ebert,
he
and
was like, "Okay, here it comes," expecting
yeah,
Ebert to say something negative,
right,
and he goes on to say, "The lovable Michael J. Fox," and
right.
he's kinda I saw again, I think this is in the bonus materials, this is this
I
on
didn't see
Apple?
I didn't see any bonus materials.
There was something I watched an interview with him, and
Okay,
he was talking about Tracy. They needed to go downstairs. It was a function for
his wife.
Parkinson's.
Yeah,
Yeah, and she's like, "What are you doing?" And he was watching Back to the Future in the hotel room, and he goes, "You know what?
right.
I was pretty damn good in that." That was a funny line, I
Yeah, I
thought.
think it's in the documentary.
Yeah,
I think
maybe it
it's in the
is.
documentary. When she comes in about halfway through, and then his family starts to be brought into the documentary. Man, first of all, I didn't know he had such a big family. He's got, what, 4 kids, I
4
think.
kids and 2 twins,
2
you know?
twins, right. And his wife, who he's been with for so long now. Um, what a great, I mean, it's just the spirit of,
Mhm.
his spirit, and the way that they interact, and the way that they don't pity him,
Right.
you know?
Right, like his
And
son will call him out on something
totally.
right on the spot.
They totally call him out on his bullshit, which is really, I f in his words, really what, the moment he fell in love with Tracy Pollan, right? They're on set. He
Mhm,
makes this kinda a-hole comment to her, after she delivers a line from the script,
Mhm.
And she just looks at him and says, That's me. That was mean and rude. And you're a total jackass.
Right.
And he's like,
And
nobody talks to me
sold.
like, yeah,
Yes.
nobody's ever talked to me that way.
Right.
So
Right.
that was pretty. So again, his relation with his wife, the relation with his father,
Mhm.
how he got into the business. I mean, we didn't even talk about the struggle.
Mhm.
Now, every actor has gone through this,
Mhm.
but his was the depths of his was even worse than because again, Michael J. Fox is a successful king
Right.
of the 80s and all of that.
But there's a
And
lot of duds in there.
well, not only
And
that,
it's
but
funny
just
because they brought
just
up
trying to
Teen
make it.
Wolf. They brought up
Yes.
Teen Wolf, which is hiding next to Elvis
Yeah, I have
Costello.
Back to the Future trilogy back here.
Ah, very nice.
Yeah, but I mean, he's living in this, in squalor basically in this apartment in Beverly Hills.
Mhm.
And he's talking about he's got there's one sink and it's full of dishes and he's washing his dishes in the shower with like
Right.
shampoo and he's
Uh,
doing the he's doing his
this
hair with dish soap. I mean,
yeah.
it was a really
It's like
funny,
a Japanese toilet, just like a hole in the
yeah.
middle of the room,
And then he starts selling off like sections of his sectional
Right.
sofa to try to make. I mean, he said, I was just literally had no money.
Right.
I'd find nickels and dimes and try to just, I'm ducking the landlord. I'm doing all this
Right.
stuff. And
And he was
just
literally
incredible
he was this close to going back, and
packing
I
it up,
forget.
working with his brother.
Right. He was so close,
Yeah.
but, he gets the call, and it's like
Fate
changes his life.
changes his life. Yeah. So, yeah. And you do come away with, he's very grateful. Again, there's no, the trailer ends with that. So the sad sack story is that, this
Eh,
well-loved celebrity gets Parkinson's and, it's terrible thing. He's like, yeah, that's boring.
The sad sack story is Michael J. Fox gets this debilitating disease and it crushes him.
yeah, that's boring. Yeah,
I don't
boring.
like that story.
Right.
And you wouldn't expect anything less from him. I mean, that's how I think he's always portrayed himself. But again, it was enlightening to see the vulnerability and the struggle with addiction and everything that he's gone through. It pretty low times,
Yeah, and
for a guy who's had a dream life, quite frankly.
right,
Yeah,
and how many people would pick, the old pick yourself up by your bootstraps and get out there and
yeah.
earn the world. We always do
A little Chris
what is it?
Farley.
Little Chris Farley in
Yeah,
there.
which is actually it was Chris Farley, but I always think of It's a Wonderful Life. Hey, Mary, I'm
Right.
gonna put a lasso around the moon and bring it
That's
down. Put it in my
right.
pocket. Yeah, it's really from It's a Wonderful Life. But
You want the moon? Just say the word and I'll throw a lasso around it and pull it down. Hey, that's a pretty good idea.
I do want to say I mentioned the editing early at the top, and Michael Hart was the editor on this, and I didn't really recognize his other work, but wow, I can't imagine.
Mhm.
I've learned through the
Right.
podcast
Right.
that's where it all happens. It's in the editing room is where the
Yep.
story is told. And I think you hear from Fox himself, it's like in interviews about the documentary, they poured through hours and hours and hours of his work. But
Mhm.
the way it was put together, as I described some at the top, they used it as these transitional devices.
Right.
I thought it was really masterful. I
It's
really thought
really well done.
so good. Yeah.
I'll be curious to see what Michael Moore, if he like chimes in, as because he always chimes in about movies that,
Documentaries and things.
yeah,
Yeah.
documentaries. That's his whole life,
Let
right?
me ask you, because I was, right from the beginning, I think the first thing you hear him say is Florida, 1990. And they're
Yeah,
zooming in on this big, hotel where he's staying at the time. Was he filming Doc Hollywood at the time? Is that what it wasn't that why he was in Florida filming Doc Hollywood?
I
And
don't,
because this is where he notices the pinky.
yes,
And it was interesting. I thought, geez, I moved to Florida in
in
1990, and
89, right?
it's a
Oh,
weird
was it
parallel
90?
universe. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was already there.
I think he was here filming Doc Hollywood. I'm pretty sure that's
Yeah.
correct. But yeah, so this, to me, it's a must see. It's as I said at the top, it's one of the best documentaries I've ever seen.
How do you think if they did this as a regular, ironically, the writer's strike, right? He can't go out and publicize this because of the writer's strike, because there's no talk shows to promote your films. So would
Right.
a
True.
regular release?
I think now they tend to that's done leading up to,
Mhm,
and I've seen a lot of interviews of him talking about it, promoting it on the
mhm.
big shows too.
Okay.
So but you're right, still. I mean, I'm sure
Yeah.
that whole late night circuit. Now, to what degree he would be doing that now anyways, because you can see it's
Right.
very difficult for him to, of course, remain still.
Right, and
And
imagine, if he tried to come out by himself. I don't think he could do it. I don't
yeah.
think you could get from the curtain to the seat without falling down. That's how
Yeah,
much his
well,
balance is
I
off.
think I think with some of his latter appearances on Letterman, whatever it was,
Mhm,
I feel like there may have been 1 or 2, I could be making this up, but where he was already sitting to
mhm.
be interviewed.
Right, right.
I
That
am I
that's a
making that up?
common no, 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 that's a
Yeah.
common thing
It's
for
more common
somebody
with, like,
who's
older
blind. Yeah, or
yeah,
somebody who's
or
blind.
older. Yeah,
Right,
sure, yeah, yeah,
right.
yeah. Well,
Um,
it's just
Really
great.
well done.
Highly recommend it.
Put this on your bucket list and check it
And
off
ag
really quick.
and again, the story of his life, all of the aspects of his life,
Mhm,
and whether you're a Michael J. Fox fan or not,
mhm.
it's worth seeing it. It's just that
Yeah,
well done. There's an amazing story here that he's telling, or several stories, quite frankly. Not the least, of course, is about Parkinson's disease, which, I after the fact I went and, was trying to educate myself a little bit more on the disease, and
yeah,
it's incredible. And they've come a long way with the research. I mean, there's still, of course, not a cure, but
yeah.
I was seeing something literally just from like several days ago. I think it was on
Mhm,
YouTube. There was a clip of this doctor at the University of Maryland School of Medicine, and
mhm.
they're doing these focused ultrasound treatments on people now. It's not invasive or anything.
Hmm.
They kind of there's this
It's not
patient.
cuckoo's nest kinda stuff,
No, no,
it's
no,
not.
no. No, not at all. It's there was this young woman who has Parkinson's that was
Mhm.
featured in it. Just a short little expose on the work that they're doing and some of the advancements they're making. And so it looks like almost going into an MRI, but it's not. And they have this cone device, this cone that goes over the
Yes,
head, and it helps focus the ultrasound
yes.
um, to that area of the brain to
Which
try
they
to
which they
stimulate.
kind of try to do that in the film with Doc Brown. Remember when he first goes to meet Doc Brown, and Doc Brown opens the door and says, "Don't tell me anything about yourself. Okay, you're here, you're a sailor," 'cause he
Yeah,
had
well,
the vest.
for its completely different purpose.
I
He
know,
he
but
was not trying to cure Parkinson's, I don't
but
think.
but it was clearly like, that had to be a moment for him
Oh,
that would,
yeah.
you know.
Yeah, well, yeah, one last thing I wanna mention, I forgot to mention this, but when you realize through the telling of the story that he's been, living with Parkinson's for 7 years before he goes public with it,
Mhm,
okay? So it's like 98 when he comes out, and I
mhm.
think I think he's shooting, um the series, Spin City, I think at the time is when it came out. He's
Yeah,
shooting
he
Spin City.
replaced Charlie Sheen, I think.
Charlie Sheen, yeah. Not
Yeah.
Sheehan, but Sheen, yeah.
Mm,
And so, he starts talking about the things that he would do in that period of time where he learned of the diagnosis and then was covering it up to mask the tremors and the movement,
correct.
right? He'd
Right,
always have something in his left hand. He was
right.
always fiddling with something in his hands to kinda mask it, and when they go back and you see these clips from movies and you see it,
Yeah,
it's unbelievable that you can
yeah.
see it now when you go back, it's just wild.
There's also
Uh,
that walkthrough they did where they, got all the original cast of Back to the Future, including both Jennifers,
mm.
and
That
did
was
it
a
on
like
YouTube.
it was like a Comic-Con th Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
and it
yeah,
was to raise money for the Michael J. Fox
right,
Foundation, so,
yeah,
check that out if you can on YouTube.
and Yeah, and check out this documentary, still a Michael J. Fox movie. It's currently streaming on Apple TV. I don't think you'll be disappointed, again, whether you're a fan of his or not. I don't think I don't know anybody that's not a Michael J. Fox fan, and as I said in our first look, if you're not a Michael J. Fox fan, not sure that we can be friends, but anyways, well,
It's
there
not
you
like
go,
people are
folks.
knocking down your door there, Dan.
That's true. Well, yeah, someone's at the door now, as a matter of fact. Coincidence.
Yes.
Want to watch the document? Okay, I'll be there in a second.
Yeah, okay.
Let's wrap this up. It's been another episode of the Oh Brother Podcast. I've been your host, Dan Smith. Alongside me, as always, my brother from the same mother, Mike Smith, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, everyone.